We're going to take a look at programmable markets. So for decades, global capital markets have been constrained by massive structural inefficiencies, delayed settlement, fragmented infrastructure, and opaque manual processes. The future is not just digitized assets, it's programmable markets. Imagine a world where financial instruments from corporate bonds to private equity are tokenized. Transactions are executed instantaneously and cash settlement is atomic, happening simultaneously with the asset transfer, eliminating counterparty risk. The rules of the market, including regulatory compliance and corporate actions, are embedded directly into smart contracts. And so our next panel will delve into the technologies enabling this shift, the tokenization standards, the new infrastructure being adapted by institutions, and it will be moderated by Sebastian Becker of the Bundesblock. So welcome, Sebastian.
So we have another 25 minutes between this and the coffee break. So let me please call all my panelists on stage. Unfortunately, again, only almost gray-haired guys. I hope you can bear with us. And of course, the topic is quite interesting, programmable capital markets. And I would like to start with a nice round of introductions. My name is Sebastian Becker. I'm the managing director of the German blockchain Association, aka Bundesblock, and I'm a strategy consultant by background, and it's good to be again here in Liechtenstein. Normally I am downstairs, so my first appearance here on the main stage. But Thierry, over to you. Please let us know what you do at the Swiss Subnet, and introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Thierry Hess. I'm representing Swiss Subnet. Swiss Subnet is a sovereign, completely encrypted private blockchain based on the Internet Computer Protocol. And actually we can host services and on-chain services for enterprises, startups, and digital asset projects. And I'm in the business development for Swiss Subnet.
Thank you, Thierry. So the local guy.
Thank you.
Zachary came from Paris this morning, so long distance almost. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Zach, founder of Fever Tokens. We provide advanced smart contract solutions for large financial institutions.
That was short and concise. And Alexandre Lelarny?
So Alexandre Rekesh, CEO of the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, or LAI, LA. This foundation is a Swiss foundation that is maintaining a system of identification of legal entities, and through the verifiable legal entity identifier, also the people acting on behalf of those entities, on-chain or off-chain.
Thank you. So let's first start with a quick intro question to all of you. Do you have any specific, we shouldn't maybe say favorite market, but do you have a marketplace in mind when you think about programmable marketplaces? So which marketplace has impressed you most recently? Thierry?
It's an interesting question. I mean, if I look back in history, I would name a DeFi marketplace, which is Uniswap. They started quite early. I think they showed also what's possible if I look to what they did in volume just a few years back, and if you look at what they are doing as of today, it's quite impressive. But it's in an unregulated sector, or let's call it less regulated sector. So if we look more into the regulated sector, I think it's very interesting to see the developments which we have seen in Switzerland with BX Digital, which has received actually the FINMA license, right? And then also in Germany with 21X, I think there are some forefront leaders. And we should not miss out on SDX because they took an early step, and it will be interesting to see how they develop their infrastructure and their offering.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Thierry, any favorite? Zachary, sorry, on your end?
Yeah, I joined Thierry by saying, so I won't necessarily mention a specific marketplace, but we see two kind of dynamics in the market. So the first one is on the large financial institutions today taking very big steps into tokenization. And what we see actually now is that they're moving from signaling and experiment stage to productization, and actually thinking about the capabilities internally and their positioning and their strategy into the space. So one initiative I can mention that we are involved in and that was made public recently is the Swift Digital Assets Standard Platform, which is also a kind of marketplace, but for designing and deploying financial instruments based on standards. So what this shows from, in my opinion, is that now these players are addressing the right questions that will make things function, and enabling what I call a system-wide integration of players. And the second element I want to mention that we see is that the development of more and more institutional DeFi in the areas where the gap is very wide in terms of financial services, and we see it in emerging and developing economies, so where the tokenization and the blockchain are basically answering some of the very elementary questions on the access to finance. So globally, we see an upgrade of the financial systems in terms of access, in terms of performance, by tokenization, both by large financial institutions and in areas where there's nothing or there's a big trust problem.
Yeah, true. Alex, Thierry mentioned SDX already. You've been part of SDX until a couple of years ago. So what can we learn from, let's say, the past 5 or 6 years of new capital markets, programmable capital markets development? Was it just a question of timing, or which, let's say, evolution and which benefits do you see from today's market trends?
Well, for any new tech to establish itself, you need pioneers, and we can clearly say that the Sixth Digital Exchange was a pioneer and is a pioneer in the sense that they were the first to natively issue on-chain. They were the first to settle atomically against central bank digital currency issued by the Swiss National Bank. They were the first, they now are the first to do token fragmentation of, or asset fragmentation, not fragmentation, the ability to set a part of a token to fine-tune portfolio of investors. So they are the first in many things, and I think a lot of tribute needs to be given to the six group to do that. It's not an easy thing to pioneer because you tested the water, right? And you can see that most of their competitors are now following suit. Deutsche Börse with their digital asset issuance D7 platform. You also have Euroclear doing the same, and so on and so forth. And we will see more and more of those progressive adoption of native issuance on-chain, bringing central bank digital currency on-chain for atomic settlement, fractionalization, that's the word I was looking for, of assets as those infrastructure try to compete in this space. It will take time because what we currently are seeing is that we're building silos. So there's the SDX silo, the Euroclear silo, the Clearstream silo, and these silos needs to be broken down and start interoperate, and interoperability will probably be the theme of the following years, the coming years, after the silo creation, the interoperability to achieve that truly decentralized global infrastructure that we all are aiming at.
Okay, perfect. When I go back to my first SDX meetings, I guess that must have been 2019, we were talking a lot about identity and how can we really secure all those processes and value chains. So let's dig deeper for a moment. Which are the core building blocks? Zachary, you mentioned smart contracts, which are of course quite important. We will talk about identities. So how programmable and how agentic will those marketplaces be? And I don't want to talk about agentic in the sense of, the ChatGPT type of agency, but really trading agents, and how do we identify them and how smart do we need to program them? What's state of the art, Zachary?
Yeah, to answer this, maybe just to give more context, so I'm also chair of the Tokenized Economies Institute, which is a research platform that is doing research on these topics that is supported by Caisse des Dépôts, which is the public bank and asset manager of the French state. And we do a lot of work on how programmable finance and tokenization can have impact on the economy and how things can actually work in our digital economies. So, and we definitely see a convergence between AI and the blockchain and tokenization. So we think that AI agents need programmable finance, and tokenization is the execution layer of that programmable finance. And as Professor Chim said in one panel earlier, if you have garbage in, you will have garbage out. So it needs to be done in the right way. And we see two fundamental aspects. So one of them is interoperability and standards. And the second is security and control. And as Alexandre said, so it's very important to think about standards in the context of tokenization with human and institutions like we know them, but also in the AI agent era, because if you think so, agents will be able to do two types of things. They would potentially be able to develop programs and specific systems. So they need to develop these systems in a way that will function with other systems. So standards are very key to this. And we need them to also be able to understand what they are doing. Even we can argue that agents and AI can understand by itself and develop and converge in an organic way. But if we want humans to be able to control and to understand, so here standards are extremely important at every level. So from the identity to identification, to the financial instruments, to the interoperability between networks, all these aspects. And these things need to be implemented well in the smart contract infrastructure. So that's one very important element. And of course, these agents will be also users of these systems, and they can trigger and act on events. So they need to talk the same language. And this is a foundation also for the control and security layer, because to build control frameworks, you need to also talk the same language and be able to understand. So we believe that these two elements will be very fundamental for the next.
I would just like to add that I think a critical point is also you have a robust governance framework in place, right? So to which data those AIs, those agents should have access, to which not, in order that you also can steer a bit. You say that we can understand what they are doing, but because we should not miss what we are trying to achieve, right? We are trying to achieve like instant settlement. We're trying to have markets which are 24/7 up and running. And imagine that they gather wrong data, or they start to hallucinate and creating wrong resolutions out of this process. I mean, this could end in a liquidation cascade, right? And so I think this is, interoperability, but not just between blockchain-based solutions, also legacy systems. We haven't touched on them yet, but I mean, the big market, the big financial market still runs at the moment on legacy infrastructure, so we need to find a way to combine those, and who knows, but in the future to the transition of more things than to the on-chain processes.
Yeah, sure. Nowadays, of course, we see actors a bit north from here, SAP, adding stablecoins to their backend systems, at least trialing it with the digital currency hub. So we're clearly moving in the direction. Are you, Thierry, a bit surprised that at the state level and the regulatory level, we don't see more smart contract sandboxes or smart contract clearing institutions? Isn't this where everything will be cooking?
I'm not sure if I agree. I think we see quite a lot of things actually happening just right now, right? I think it took some time. I mean, Liechtenstein was quite pioneering the state with the legal framework. Yeah. Switzerland was coming close after, but we should not underestimate it was in 2021 where the legal framework came out. So institutional players knew what are the rules to play. And then Europe joined with MiCA, the DLT pilot regime, DORA. So I think we had to have those measures in place to be able to create sandboxes. And out of those sandboxes, we now see also institutional demand institutional proof of concept. And I agree with Alexander when he said we have to bring those puzzle pieces together, and I think they come closer and closer. So we are very close to having really the infrastructure play in place. But it's a lot about, I think it's critical that we don't create new silos. We have to break up the silos. And just imagine, you know, we have more than 13 CSDs in Europe. I mean, with the infrastructure like Centurion, you don't need a CSD anymore. It's a smart contract, right? And so there will be winners, there will be also players which will lose their shares, so it will be interesting to see. But I think there is a lot of going on, also driven by the US, which has put in place regulation. So let's see, I mean, it's not regulation. In Europe, you have trust, right? We build up on trust. It's perhaps not the most innovation-friendly regulation, but it's a regulation. Whether in the US, they just go for speed. Let's see how this will play out.
Yeah, let's stick to Europe for a moment and leave, you know, fast movers and corrupt regimes out of the equation for a moment. So, Alexander, with the verifiable legal enterprise identifier, so the IDs for corporates, you are part of this emerging, let's say, horizontal, unified, or let's say, prerequisites for a unified capital market. So where are you with this solution, and how do you see it being, you know, forwarded into the business arena?
So we were talking about those silos and those centralized systems that today were built this way in order to control who has access to instruments, who has access to markets. As those centralized system becomes more decentralized, you need a decentralized identity system, pretty much, and a decentralized compliance that enables those silos to be broken and those central securities depositories, for example, to have a new role, potentially, in the future of finance. So the LEI has been historically used for global identification of legal entities involved in financial transactions. So the natural next step for the LEI was to become decentralized, and that's what we've created. That's why we created the VLEI, Verifiable Legal Entity Identifier, which is a standard and a protocol. It's not a commercial product. It's a protocol that can be implemented by anybody as a way to not only verifiably prove who you are as a legal entity on Web 2 and Web 3 platforms, but also people, system, or AI agent acting on behalf of a legal entity. Legal entities don't take decisions, they don't sign contracts. It's people or systems in legal entities that do things on behalf of a legal entity. So that VLEI ecosystem aims at really creating that decentralized identity and verifiable credential overlay service that can be used across blockchain, across platforms, in a way that smart contract can be verifiable. Am I buying the right token, for example? Am I on the right decentralized service? Yes, because it's verifiably linked to that legal entity who is in charge of that token, issuer, or is in charge of that service, a CSD maybe in the future, or an exchange. And the second is, who am I dealing with? And counterparty identification and verifiable counterparty identification can also be done through decentralized identity and verifiable credentials. And that's what the VLEI is all about. It's a standard, it's a protocol that can be used everywhere. In terms of where we are in terms of deployment, we now have a network of qualified VLEI issuers who are part of the governance framework all over the world, with a lot in Asia, so that demonstrates the interest of Asia into that type of technology. We have a network now, an ecosystem of software and solution providers to manage those credentials, issue those credentials, revoke those credentials, etc. So we can anticipate that in the coming years, we will see that technical protocol and that standard being used more and more on multiple infrastructure. Just one to finish. We've been working actively with Cardano Foundation, with Chainlink, to bring that on-chain and across-chain, and also between traditional and new infrastructures, and that's progressing well.
And if you're interested in the VLEI, let me shorten it up, then go to Alex's LinkedIn profile. You can see it nicely on display there.
Absolutely. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
As well.
Maybe just to comment on the question, make a link with what Alexander said. So in France, for example, on the regulators checking some actions related to smart contracts. So, because when we talk about programmable capital markets, it's happening at the smart contract level. This is where the logic is implemented. So, for example, the French regulators, so IMF and ACPR from Banque de France, have been hosting a working group on the certification of smart contracts, which dived into the technicalities of the things, and they are defining a framework where you have 3 pillars. So the first one is standards, which are the reference and the audit methods and the certification. So this work was made public by end of last year and was open to the European discussions, wide discussions. So I think, and this joins what just Alexander said, one of the challenges will be how to actually identify smart contracts and work on their governance, and this type of VLEI system is a very important solution on that end. So, but just to say, we see now initiatives on this side of the stakeholders from the regulatory perspective.
Let's talk about Europe's focus or Europe's role in this whole play. If we listen now to the Commission and to Christine Lagarde, she's just speaking in Frankfurt this afternoon. Of course, CBDCs are, let's say, the favorite direction of the European Commission, and for good reasons. We have constitutions, we have let's say, a political system in Europe that demands, let's say, that state entities look after the money. In the US, we see the opposite, because it's part of the MAGA ideology to bypass state actions. But regardless of this, if we think of marketplaces, of course, they will have to take care of all financial products. And if we think of stable coins and programmable money coming from the commercial bank sector plus CBDCs, what's the positioning of Europe, both from a technical but also from a sovereignty standpoint? Is this part of your also, let's say, raison d'être, Thierry, for Swiss subnet, or how do you see our landscape here evolving based on those building blocks?
I think it will be very interesting to see this landscape evolving, because the discussion is ongoing, right, about CBDCs, deposit tokens, stable coins. Will one win over the other, which is not clear yet? What are the use cases which are fulfilled? As for Swiss subnet, I mean, it's very interesting because we could be interoperable to, I mean, not CBDC is clearly institutional play, right? I mean, it's mostly, if we talk about wholesale CBDC, it's a bank-to-bank transaction. Let's see if some retail wholesale CBDC solution will find their way also. But from a platform perspective, or from Swiss subnet's perspective, it would be interoperable to all these 3 forms of money, and it will be very interesting to see which form of those money will find his way in the Europe space. I think we can see a lot of evolutions. We had also All Unity on the table today in the panel, so it was interesting to hear what they are building, and it's interesting to
10 seconds on this. We need
Sure.
we need the 3.
Yes.
Today we have M0, M1, and other types of money: central bank money, commercial bank money, e-money. To me, CBDC, deposit tokens, and stable coins are the digital version of those 3 forms of money. So I think we will have the 3 of them, and they will interact. They need to be ubiquitous, meaning that they can fungible in a way, like money is today, and that's happening with initiatives like UBIX, for example, and others.
So let's try to finish on time. I think we agree on the money stack. Last question to you, Zachariah, because you live in France, I live in Germany. France and Germany have not been part of some of the European infrastructure initiatives. What can we do to unite Europe? Again, do we need more conferences, or do we need the central banks to interact, or what's the way forward?
Yeah, I think we need institutions to collaborate more closely. I think it's happening right now. So we see initiatives that bring together European, German and French banks, for example. We see also SWIFT initiatives, which is based a European regulated entity, and I think Europe has a big technical advantage, both in Germany and in France. Most of the top DeFi technology is coming from Europe. So very superior, and I think we have also, at least from a French perspective, some kind of advance in regulations and how things are pushed, but there is a philosophy change that needs to be achieved.
So the panel is bullish, and of course there's lots of innovation and technical superiority in Switzerland and Liechtenstein as well. Looking forward to this discussion next year. So let's tell the kids at the supermarket that pay with Apple Pay what they should do in the near future. Have a happy coffee break, and I think it's an encouraging sign that we saw the first European capital market startup 21X coming out of the DLT pilot regime to go to the US next. So there's also something happening in that direction. Good, thanks a lot, and back to you or the coffee break. Thanks for your patience.